Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I'm showcasing my high survivability DPS build, the Shepherd. The idea behind this build is to provide multiple safety nets while still outputting a good amount of damage. This was originally created for use with the shepherding activity, because you never know what you're going to walk into when answering a call for help. So it needed to be strong in a variety of situations at a variety of ranges, and be able to survive being plopped right in the middle of combat, sometimes literally. This is by no means the only way to run this. You will find plenty of videos on YouTube from content creators showcasing similar setups. This build just caters to my playstyle and my preferences, but you may find that it works well for yours too. With this build, you'll be able to play aggressively without worrying too much about overreaching. This makes for a less sweaty gaming experience while still retaining all the fun value and destruction of a damage-focused build. Now, Shepherd's survivability comes from its 4 safety nets, the first being the 10% armor on kill from the Gunner specialization. Right here. The second comes from the Unbreakable talent on the chest piece, right here. The third piece comes from the Preservation talent found on the FAMAS, right here. And the fourth comes from the Reviver Hive, right here. For those times when you make a really big oopsie. You'll also notice that I have a couple armor cores on here. It's going to bring my total armor up to 1.1 million, which I found to be the sweet spot with this setup. Now, this build is optimized for solo heroic performance, but it does great in groups, including legendary difficulty and countdown, but I wouldn't recommend it for solo legendary. So with all that said, let me get into the individual pieces here. We'll start with the weapons. For me, I'm running the FAMAS as my primary. Now, you could just as easily put your favorite AR in this spot and just roll Preservation onto it. I just really like the performance and feel of the FAMAS. But the most important part of this is its talent. So with Preservation, if you're unfamiliar with it, if you kill an enemy, you will repair 10% armor over 5 seconds. Headshots improve the repair by an additional 10%. So if you're a good shot, you're getting 20% armor over time, and you'll get that 10% armor on kill instantly from the Gunner spec. Now the mods that I'm running on the FAMAS, I've got a critical hit damage, critical hit chance, and the Omega 556 to get me that extra stability to make this even more of a laser. And then the magazine is just a plus 20 round mag on there. You can see my attribute is rolled to damage to targets out of cover, which is kind of the go-to for ARs. The second weapon I have here, my secondary slot, is my favorite exotic of all time, the Scorpio. If you're unfamiliar what this exotic does, it has the talent Septic Shock. I can barely talk. If you shoot a target, it applies stacks. And the first shot is poison, third is disorient, 6 is shock, 7, the target starts taking an additional 20% damage from all sources. And that's the end of the stacks. This is great for defensive purposes as well as offensive purposes. Definitely my go-to exotic. In the pistol on this build, I have a custom PF45. It actually slaps. I'm not going to lie. You can easily use this pistol. It's not just there for decoration. If you run this with Strained and with this setup, it is quite strong. And this will be important with one of the variations of this build that I'm going to show in a little bit. Now for the gear, we've got the Coyote's Mask. If you're unfamiliar with its talent, it's called Pack Instincts. Basically, you get a damage boost based on the range that you're firing at the enemy. So if they're between 0 and 15 meters, you gain an additional 25% critical hit damage. If they're between 15 and 25 meters, you get 10% critical hit damage and 10% critical hit chance. 25 meters or more, you're getting that 25% critical hit chance. This exotic helps you fill gaps, helps you fill those critical hit damage and critical hit chance gaps depending on what you're building for. So this becomes very useful for this build. The mod that I'm running on here is a 12% critical hit damage mod. On the chest, we're running the Grupo Sombra. The one piece grants us 15% critical hit damage. You can see that it's rolled to critical hit chance and damage. You'll notice a trend with this build. In the mod, we've got the critical hit damage mod on there. The talent is Unbreakable, which is essentially, like I mentioned earlier, a free armor kit every 60 seconds. Great for survivability. For the holster, we're running the Picaro's holster. The one piece grants us that skill haste, 10% skill haste, which helps with the skill that we're running. Not tremendously, but every little bit counts. The Picaro's inherent trait is that 15% weapon damage that can't be rolled to something else, but its other attribute on this one is going to be the critical hit damage. And I do have an armor roll on here, one of two. For the backpack, we've got the Cheska backpack. The one-piece brand set grants us that 10% critical hit chance. You can see that my attributes are rolled to critical hit chance and critical hit damage, and then I've got a 12% critical hit damage mod on there. The talent on this is Vigilance, everybody's favorite go-to damage talent. Increases total weapon damage by 25%. Now, the only catch with this, of course, is that if you take damage, it gets disabled for 4 seconds. Gloves, best in slot contractors. Attribute, inherent attribute, it's going to be that damage to armor, 8%. I've got a critical hit damage roll to the other attribute and an armor core as its main. And then the other best in slot, especially for damage builds, the Fox's Prayer knee pads. We're getting that 10% rifle damage, which does absolutely nothing for this build, but we're getting that 8% damage to targets out of cover, which definitely helps. And I've got critical hit chance rolled as its second attribute. So you could switch the Coyote's mask for Memento, and you could put a Cheska piece here. You could put the Memento bag here. I just prefer this setup because there's no prerequisites for the damage output. No trophies I need to pick up. I just aim and shoot. And for the skills, I mentioned the Reviver Hive. This comes in handy when you make a big oopsie and you need a revive and there's nobody else around you to revive you. So again, this is great for solo play. My other skill is the Banshee Pulse, which is exclusive to the Gunner specialization. This is great for both defensive and offensive purposes. You get that 5.2 second effect that's applied. Now granted, I have expertise this to 15. We'll talk about that in just a second. But you could switch the Banshee Pulse for Bulwark Shield. This works out really, really well with this build as well. So you could switch it out for Bulwark. And I would switch the pistol out for, let's see, my card 45. But it is actually the card custom because you get that additional skill tier with it. So you end up with a skill tier 3 shield. And it's not going to let me show it, is it? There we go. So you end up with a skill tier 3 shield as long as your pistol is in your hand. But when you pop the Bulwark, your pistol is going to be in your hand anyway. So this isn't anything you have to consciously think about. You just pop the shield, your pistol's already in your hand. It bumps it from a skill tier 2 to a skill tier 3. You're sitting at just shy of 8 million health. This comes in really handy, especially in high stress situations where you've officially overreached and you need to back off a little bit. This comes in very handy. This is my other favorite way to run this. For the purpose of this video, though, I'm going to show you how it does with the Banshee Pulse. So I'm going to re-equip this. I'm going to go back to my PF45. Oh, and in case you were curious about the card 45, what I had on there, I suppose I should probably touch on that. I did run Optimist on there, simply because this doesn't limit the range, the effective range of the pistol. If you're running something like close and personal, you have to be getting kills within a certain amount. I believe it's 7 meters, which is pretty close. Whereas with this, it's constantly wrapping up damage regardless of the range of the target. I just find I get more use out of this than I did with close and personal. That would be my reasoning for running that pistol with that talent. So none of these gear pieces have hard to farm for attributes. You'll notice that, it's pretty much just critical hit chance and damage everywhere. And because the inherent core attributes for all of these gear pieces are weapon damage, this is pretty easy to farm for. This is weapon damage. The only thing that you're probably going to struggle finding is a good pair of contractor's gloves that drops with either critical hit damage or critical hit chance on there, so you can re-roll the core attribute to armor. But the Brazos de Arquebus gear set, its inherent core attribute is armor. So you just need one to drop, period. And then you're going to re-roll one of the attributes, or the second attribute, to either critical hit chance or critical hit damage, depending on what you're aiming for. And as always, I highly recommend using Countdown for farming purposes. As of the making of this video, there is simply no better method for obtaining specific gear efficiently. And then before I demonstrate this build in the range or show the stats, let me get into my expertise disclaimer. As you can see, I have several items on here that are expertised up the wazoo, especially my Scorpio. I've invested very heavily into the Scorpio because it's just that good. So if you're getting different damage numbers from me, that is going to be why. My FAMAS is only expertised up to 10. Once you get up to 10 on the expertise, that's when exotic components start to come into play. I typically don't have a lot of those on hand, so I'm very picky and choosy which items I actually invest those into. And then the Banshee, I do have that expertise up to 15. It increases that disorient duration just a little bit. It's not super noticeable, but for me, every bit helps, and I had some extra components, so I was like, why not? So that is my expertise disclaimer. Now let me show you the stats. Because we're running the Coyotes mask, we wanted to leave a 10% gap, or as close to a 10% gap as we could, in critical hit chance, because the ideal engagement range with the ARs is that 10 to 15 meter range. And so we did that. We hit 49% critical hit chance with 161% critical hit damage for the FAMAS. For the Scorpio, the critical hit chance isn't as important, so we wanted to invest more into the critical hit damage, but it just so happened that we ended up with 54% critical hit chance on this, and critical hit damage sitting at 166%. And let me show you the pistol too, I suppose, since the pistol is actually not completely worthless on this build. We're sitting right at 59% critical hit chance and 161% critical hit damage. All right, so let's go to the Ranger, and I'll just show you some damage numbers, and then we'll take this out in the open, and we'll show you how it does out in the game world. So I'm going to set this to Elite. You'll notice in my upper left-hand corner, it's set to Heroic. Shooting range is set to Heroic. Everything is on Heroic. So I'm going to set this to 15 meters for the FAMAS demonstration. Make sure I got a full clip. And here we go. Okay, so that's body shots. I'll do it again. It's pretty quick. I'm going to aim for the head. Granted, that is a target that's holding still. Out in the game world, it's not going to be quite that easy to land headshots. We're going to switch this to 5 meters, and I'll show you the Scorpio. 3 shots. We'll do that again. It's nasty. I'm going to demonstrate the pistol, make sure I got it fully loaded. We're going to go for body shots with the pistol. One more time, body shots.
Agent requesting backup.
Apparently my controller just decided to turn itself off there for a second. I apologize. Let's do that again. I have a full battery, so I'm not entirely sure what just happened. All right, one more time. Body shots. And we're going to do some headshots. Oops, I reloaded a little too soon. Let's do that one more time. Okay, let's take this out in the open, show you what it can do. Let's reset the control points. I'm going to go take my favorite control point here. Give it just a second. Suppose I should have done this before I started recording. We're doing this live, folks. We're doing this live, mistakes and all. This is as real as it gets for build videos. None of that fancy editing that makes me look like I'm some sort of a Division god. Nope, I make mistakes. I make lots of them. And I'm a very average player. In general. All right. I will resist the urge to loot while I'm running around. Apologize for the cat yelling in the background. Apparently she's very upset that I am more focused on the game here than I am on her. So, like I was mentioning earlier with the bulwark, you could easily switch this out for a bulwark and do just fine. It doesn't have to be the card 45 custom or the TDI card custom. You can just as easily put your favorite pistol there and do just fine. I just really like the mobility that is it's given when I'm using the Banshee pulse, and it comes in very handy. It's a fun playstyle using Banshee. Hey, it looks like we're going to have a party here. This will be good.
Detecting additional hostile contacts.
They're within Scorpio range. We are definitely going to use this because it is slappy. Now, in case you didn't know, preservation does stack. So you don't have to wait for the proc to go away for it to start working again. You can just stack it and stack it and stack it. So you're getting a bunch of rapid kills. It's still working in the background. You have very aggressive armor regen. Now the only downside with this build, using Vigilance, you know, you get hit, it gets deactivated, so its uptime is going to be less than what's ideal. It still works just fine in most situations, though. Okay, and I need you to stop shooting at me. And we're going to bail. All right, that's our Unbreakable kicking in. Oh, we've got another convoy coming. Oh man, it is a party.
Hostile broadcast picked up.
Oh, we got it off. Okay, we're gonna have to bail here. We're gonna plate up. Keep an eye on these guys. They're about to notice that I'm here. We need to reposition so they're behind us. I want all the enemies in front of me where I can see them. Still haven't noticed this, which is good. We're going to do some close work here. See if we can't spawn kill him. And you're done.
Control point secured. Well done.
position here. I don't know why I chose to reload right there. I always do that. Take too much aggro. We got our free armor kit. Switch to Scorpio.
Detecting additional hostile contacts. Hostile broadcast detected.
See if I can work on some spawn killing here. As I can.
Incoming hostiles detected.
Come on out. All right, let's get some ammo here. Calling for some reinforcements and have some more fun.
Reinforcements en route.
Are they gonna spawn? Okay, they're spawning over here.
Additional hostile contacts.
You know, we can play very aggressively despite our general lack of armor. I mean, 2 armor cores, especially with as much damage as these NPCs do when you're playing solo, that's not much. It doesn't give you much of a reaction. But we are doing just fine. Getting that 10% armor and kill, the kills that we're getting with the FAMAS, that just enhances that 10% armor and kill. Lots of survivability. Plus we got Unbreakable. You've noticed it's probably already procced at least a couple times, but keeping us alive. Allows us to make mistakes, do things like overreach.
Hostile detected.
We're doing just hunky. We've got great range up close and far away. We're not stuck to keeping everybody at arm's reach. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife of builds here. Does incredibly well in most situations. I think the fencing is saving this guy from a bunch of my rounds. There we go. You can see how this FAMAS is just a laser. Alright, we're gonna push him. And we'll let Scorpio do the rest. There's nothing he can do. So we just took on, I believe, 2 resource convoys and the checkpoint. Let me just collect these real quick before we go back to base. Resource convoy intercept. Okay, we got it. All right, so if you stuck around till the end, I got a bonus for you. Let me show you my outfit. But first, let's get back to the White House. In case you're curious what I'm running. Hey, the fashion game is just as important as the function game. So for the apparel, I've got the chrome shades on. I've got the dog tag necklace, and I'm running the hawk face mask. I've got the tank top, just basic black tank top. JTF pants. Got the Chris Redfield Stars boots. Now these ones are available in the store under the Resident Evil category. And it's these boots right here. Chris Redfield Stars boots. And for the individual pieces themselves, for the chest, I have the Big Drum body armor. I believe this is, let me pull up the brand here. There we go. Overlord Armaments, version 1 of 3. Big Drum body armor. For the holster, I've got the Young low friction holster, and that belongs to the True Patriot gear set, version 2 of 2. For the backpack, I am running another True Patriot piece, version 1 of 2, the Driver Excursion Pack. None of these have any shaders on them. For the gloves, also True Patriot, I am running version 1 of 2. For the True Patriot, the Ross hand protectors. And then for the knees, we've got so many of them. Here we are. The Tay protective pads from Douglas and Harding. All right, thank you everyone for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'll see you all in the next one.